Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 170 of Album of the Day, in which for today's review, going to be talking about a singer-songwriter who is very well known for his name as, whose real name is Josh Tillman, which he was known by that for the majority of his career and stuff. Although now, whenever he makes music, people better know him as Father John Misty. Of course, I'm Father John Misty. So of course, I'm talking about Josh Tillman, aka Father John Misty, who is most well known for his work as the percussionist for Fleet Foxes for a couple of years, and now pursuing his own sort of solo career under this new moniker, even though for a long time he went under his own name, Josh, before Fleet Foxes and whatnot. And his music is sort of like contemporary indie folk kind of music. So I'm here to review his third album, his most recent record, which dropped on April the 7th of 2017. And the album is called Pure Comedy. And as you can see, this is the vinyl copy of it that I have right here. As you can see, really beautiful artwork on this album. Because I like how with the vinyl you can definitely pick out little interesting kind of weird details in there. So there's a lot of freaky stuff going on there, but really cool. I was so excited for this record actually that I actually pre-ordered this. What's interesting is the vinyl packaging actually has a variety of different colors of background here. I've got the orange-yellow background with what looks like a sun, which that sky looks pretty angry right there, doesn't it? And then there's the back, even more cool artwork on here. The artwork on here, it is pretty crazy and stuff, but at the same time, it also does kind of fit in with the album really nicely. And, of course, I love me a gatefold, which this is one where you can definitely see very closely a bunch of interesting little details. A guy in what looks like a hot tub, as well as, a couple of ladies, carrying, what looks like a dead cow or something, on a spit, probably about to get roasted, as well as a couple of Ku Klux Klan members. And then there's two vinyls in here. This is the first sleeve, which basically sort of talks about what the record's supposed to be about and stuff. And then there are the liner notes, credits, personnel for each and every song, the horn and string arrangements and stuff. And let me show you the first LP. There's side A, and then there's side B. And then in the second sleeve, you got the lyrics over here, which there's 13 songs. Pretty long record. It's over an hour and 14 minutes. And then there's side C, and then side D. And that's my vinyl copy of Pure Comedy, the newest album from Father John Misty, on vinyl. So, of course, if you've been watching my channel for the last couple of years, you may know that I have been a huge fan of Father John Misty's work, especially after his last record, I Love You Honey Bear, which came out back in 2015, but didn't get a chance to review it till 2016. But such an incredible record with very witty, clever, self-deprecating, hilarious, and kind of sappy lyrics. as well as some very gorgeous and very lavishly arranged instrumentals, which I thought that record was definitely miles better than his debut album under this name, Pure Fun, which definitely had potential. And while I did think the lyrics on that album were really good, I felt like instrumentally it definitely needed improving upon. It just kind of played it safe for me. So because of my massive love for the last album for Father John Misty, I was definitely excited to hear what he had in store for this album upon hearing the teaser tracks for it and stuff. And upon hearing it, I'm very happy to say Pure Comedy is probably by far Father John Misty's most grand, adventurous, and most mature record yet. I'm not going to say it's better than I Love You, Honey Bear. That's still my favorite record of his. But something about this record, this is like just a much needed step forward for him, and really to show him progressing even further as a lyricist, and also the arrangements on this thing, just absolutely just like gorgeous and like more extravagant than ever, I think, here on this record. So it's a bit of a concept album, but instead of the really personal, more romantic lyrics of the last record, he goes for something a little more direct, sort of commenting on society as well as social media and all the stuff that kind of consumes our universe today, but in kind of a self-deprecating kind of way. Of course, it opens up with the title track, Pure Comedy, which opens up with Jay Tillman sort of opening up about how the comedy of man starts, and sort of talking about how we kind of, are, and kind of likening us to a species that has like a half-formed brain and stuff like that, and nature devising some alternative. And there's a few lyrics I want to go through that definitely I think will be enough to sort of tell you what he means when he says what he says in this song. Their religions are the best. They worship themselves, but they're totally obsessed with risen zombies, celestial versions, and magic tricks in these unbelievable outfits. And they get terribly upset when you question their sacred text written by woman-hating epileptics. Which is definitely, got a clever sort of sense of humor to it, but also definitely kind of pretty strong point right there. And there also is a really hilarious verse towards the end where he sort of, pokes fun at, the election and stuff like that, and sort of likening sort of the people kind of ruling our countries kind of like godless animals, which I couldn't agree more with that. Before it eventually closes off with this just awesome, epic instrumental part with these huge horns as well as really beautiful strings and percussion. And this is really the part where Jay Tillman really does explode vocally on here, which I think sounds awesome and really adds some power to a lyric. Like, it's like something that a madman would conceive. Yeah, pretty funny right there. Before he eventually closes it out by saying, I hate to say it, but each other's all we got. The very next track, Total Entertainment Forever, which is the third single from the record, premiered on an SNL performance early this year, opens up with the lyrics, betting Taylor Swift every night inside the Oculus Rift after Mr. and the Mrs. finished dinner in the dishes, which sort of talking about how he doesn't want Taylor Swift to get caught up in that whole, sex kind of selling in the media and stuff, which only leads to kind of the subject of the song, which you could tell by the title. This is a song sort of taking a look at sort of, people using like entertainment, like on the internet, that isn't necessarily that, that isn't necessarily that interesting and stuff like that, and yet making a lot of money out of it and stuff like that. Like that, and talking about how in the new age we'll all be entertained, rich or poor, the channels are all the same, pretty much, and really sort of the part that I think really sums up sort of the self-deprecating view at social media here on this song definitely is the lines in the bridge of no gods to rule us, no drugs to soothe us, no myths to prove stuff, no love to confuse us. Not bad for a race of demented monkeys. From a cave to a city, to a permanent party. Yeah, definitely, pretty funny line, and definitely beautifully sort of, if you don't believe him for the first few lyrics, once you hear kind of that snarkiness in the bridge, I think you'll definitely get the point. And I love the instrumental in here, which has kind of a catchy, jazzy kind of vibe to it, with the cumbia percussion as well as the piano, and really great saxophone on the track too. The song "Things It Would Be Helpful to Know Before the Revolution" is probably my favorite track on the record. It really does like define what the album sounds like overall in the best of ways, in my opinion. And I love how he's sort of likening the Earth as this bright blue marble orbited by trash, and stuff like that. And then in his second verse, he definitely does get a little more kind of introspective and melancholy when he talks about how his social life is a lot less hectic, because like when he's like ignoring all the stuff going on in social media, he's like wandering through the city, and sometimes he misses the top of the food chain, but yet he says how it's just a wonderful afternoon for him. So he's not like I wouldn't necessarily say he's being too much of a snob about social media, but rather just kind of looking at but sort of talking about how he doesn't really understand why so many people have to like kind of focus on the negative side of it. So what I think he's trying to say is how he would like people to focus more on the positives of it, rather than kind of using it as a place to kind of just rather than just using it to kind of let their negativity get the better of them. And then it has like this really explosive bridge here, which is sort of really the part where he really does get a little more intense about this whole thing, when he says industry and commerce toppled to their knees and whatnot, before eventually dramatically ending that part with the temperature dropping and the ice floes beginning to freeze. And I really like how like explosive and how like gigantic the horns sound in this part, and the strings also sound really cool in there as well. And one of my favorite lines on this song comes in the form of a line like the tribe at the former airport some nights has meat and dancing. If you don't mind gathering and hunting, we're all still pretty good at eating on the run. That's poeticism right there. And of course, he uses the all-appropriate line to close out the song on this godless rock that refuses to die. The song Ballad of the Dying Man is definitely a song that I think can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, sort of talking about some sort of politician or somebody like that, who and stuff like that, who essentially doesn't really have that much life to what he says, and has really lucid commentary and stuff like that. Uh, and one of the funniest verses on the song would have to be the second verse, where he talks about how, he's just how this person is like waiting for overrated hacks running amok, as well as pretentious, ignorant voices that'll go unchecked, homophobes, hipsters, and 1%, the false feminists he'd managed to detect, who will critique them once he's left, which that is definitely very true right there. So have no idea exactly what the song is about, because don't necessarily like to make assumptions here. But I definitely do think he makes a very smart point here. And also I think the instrumental sounds really nice. Like the kind of Beatlesy inspired instrumental, as well as the huge group vocals towards the end. I thought sounded really nice also. The song Birdie and then we have the song Birdie, which Birdie is the birdie can be very symbolic of kind of this sort of creature that's sort of free from all the kind of crazy sort of toxicity of life and stuff like that the protagonist in the song unfortunately has to deal with. And I like how he sort of asks the birdie, "Are you really as free as all the great songs would have me believe?" And this is a song where I feel like he really wishes for kind of a sort of a brighter future, pretty much, in a world where nobody really got all violent just because of differences and whatnot. And musically, the instrumental definitely sounds a little bit kind of like something maybe the Postal Service could have done on the album Give Up, which sounds really nice, by the way. And then after that, we get into pretty much the big gem of the record, which is the 13-minute epic, Leaving L.A., which is kind of a song, sort of taking a rather, this song at the beginning may seem kind of like an attack on kind of the trends going on in his home of L.A. and stuff like that, before it eventually kind of turns into this kind of self-deprecating sort of autobiography of his life. And it's definitely a song that may kind of challenge some more kind of impatient listeners. But for the listener who's willing to take that time to really listen, it's definitely one of the best tracks on the record, because of the interesting things that he has to say, pretty much. At some points, it's definitely more melancholy, but at other points, it's actually got a few really funny lyrics in it also. I love the line in the 8th verse, some 10-verse chorusless diatribe plays as they all jump ship. I used to like this guy, but this new shit really kind of makes me want to die. As he's sort of seeing the end and sort of wondering, are my fans gonna, love this? Are they gonna hate this? Pretty much. Because that's exactly what the song is. It's like this 10-verse chorusless diatribe, as he describes it in the lyrics. And also some really beautiful strings in the song, too. It's just like strings and acoustic guitar, but I love how the strings sort of play all kinds of different notes throughout the song, sort of, I think, evoking different emotions. So it sort of feels like kind of this journey, even if it's just like a few instruments in the song. The song. I'm going a little long here, so I'm going to try to sort of talk a little more efficiently about other songs on this record. One of my favorite tracks is definitely the song A Bigger Paper Bag, which has by far one of the best instrumentals on the record. It really does show some really interesting instrumental attention to detail with the vibraphone and the electric piano, the swelling mellotron samples and stuff like that. And also definitely some very clever lyrics, like that line in the chorus of I got the world by the balls. Am I supposed to behave? And also I think actually beautifully describing one of the images in the corner of the album cover with a line of, I was pissing on the flame like a child with cash, or a king on cocaine, because there's like a skeleton peeing on flames like in that corner. I didn't realize that till just yesterday listening to it, but that's pretty funny right there. And also really like the kind of Beach Boys inspired vocal harmonies on the song too. And I will admit there are some wonderful song titles for some of these songs, like with the track When the God of Love Returns, There Will Be Hell to Pay, where he's sort of talking about how all this stuff kind of going on like in our world today, and stuff like that. It's basically just like human nature and stuff like that, and how we kind of, have somewhat half-formed brains, pretty much. Pretty much. And I really like the line of the pale horse looking a little sick and saying, Jesus, you didn't leave a whole lot for me. If this isn't hell already, then tell me what the hell is. So definitely some very interesting, clever lyrics over a kind of stripped-back instrumental, mostly driven by a piano. And of course, once again, he closes out with definitely a very memorable line with, to make something out of nothing sounds like someone else I know. The song Smoochie has kind of a folky, almost alternative country kind of sound to it, which while I do really like the instrumental on this track and stuff, this one's probably my least favorite track on the record, because, lyrics weren't as strong, and also didn't really care for the kind of pitched down backup vocals in the verses. I thought was a bit of a turn-off right there. But we do have really beautiful ballad following that with the song Two Wildly Different Perspectives, which is sort of a song sort of addressing kind of, the differences of views between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Like, one side says, like, y'all go to hell, kill them all, and stuff like that, while the other side is like, if I believe in God, I'd send you there and line those killers up against the wall. But talking about either way, there's still bloodshed and still everybody ending up with less and whatnot on both sides, regardless of their difference of opinions and stuff. And really beautiful instrumental to back it up. Really liked the kind of jazzy vibraphone on the song. I thought was really cool, as well as some interesting little like samples in the background, and really beautiful strings as well. Like just like on the last record, Father John Misty is definitely very good at incorporating strings into his music beautifully. The Memo is then we have the Memo, which definitely does have, again, some very hilarious lyrics, like him sort of talking about sort of stealing bed sheets from an amputee and telling everyone it was painted by a chimpanzee, or taking or steal or kidnapping 5 young dudes from white families, and and saying how they sing with angels with whiter teeth before eventually getting that much more revealing with the bridge. And I don't remember the last time I heard somebody say Narcissus would have had a field day if he could have got online. That's definitely not like something you'd hear from any other songwriter making attacks on society. And stuff. And I also do really like the instrumental, which also sounds kind of Beatlesy, in my opinion. I will admit probably my second favorite track on the record would have to be the 10-minute epic, So I'm Growing Old on Magic Mountain, which I think it's really beautiful how this song is like towards the end of the record, because it sort of depicts the world kind of reaching its violent end and stuff like that, and like him sort of saying how if the longer he stays in that kind of dehumanizing world, the longer there is no future. So he decides to like grow old on like this Magic Mountain, which is sort of like a little metaphor he makes to sort of try to, get away from the things kind of, putting him down and stuff. But also bringing a sense of hope to it with lyrics like, "For now, everyone is dancing," and also like beautiful instrumental on the track, especially towards the end where it has that longer part with kind of angelic female guest vocals, as well as the kind of drony keyboards on the track. Sounded really cool, as well as kind of a mournful lap steel on there. As well. And I do like how there's like a little drum machine in the background, sort of going over the actual drums, which just sounds really cool on there. Before it closes out into a more kind of somber piano and keyboard outro, which also does feature a little vibraphone at the end if you listen closely at the end. Before it closes out with the song "In 20 Years or So," which really does kind of depict sort of the world ending pretty much, but it does again bring a sense of hope also, especially with the line at the end of him and his wife like in a bar, like after the world has ended, like sort of looking at each other as their second drinks arrive, and there's a piano player playing "This Must Be the Place," and it's a miracle to be alive, and eventually closing it out with "There's nothing to fear," pretty much. So it seems like kind of a dark sort of journey, but at the same time kind of evokes light towards the end, which I like. And really beautiful string outro also. So yeah, you're very much getting the impression that like I love this album. I think it's definitely I feel like Josh Tillman really outdid himself here on this record with just about all the fronts, whether it be music or lyrics and the artwork too. Definitely pick this up on vinyl sometime if you can. I mean, a lot of the indie stores definitely have gone crazy with the sales of this and whatnot. So yeah, I'm definitely going to give this record a strong 8 out of 10 for sure, because it's definitely highly recommended. It's not for everyone, but definitely a great listen. So that's my review of the new Father John Misty album, Pure Comedy, and I'll see you for episode 171.